on page 293, local building. So that is the assembly of the Mishkan itself. The Mishkan was the structure. And assembling it is building. Then we also have demolishing it, taking it apart to rebuild it at another place or another time, or improving. These are two malachas. One is building, and one is demolishing. So on page 293, we have building, a permanent building. Anything that is meant to be lasting is this malacha, or anything that is added to a permanent building. Then we have number 3, preparing the ground for residence. So that would include straightening the ground. And the same would also be if it is a yard that is part of the residence, that is also a part of this malacha, straightening the ground. And if it is straightening the ground for the purpose of planting, then that is the malacha of plowing. But if it is, the purpose is to improve the residence, then this becomes a part of building. So that would include, if you have an earthen yard, sweeping, raking, removal of rocks so that your yard will be pleasant to live there, that would all be included in building. And we have an extension of a halacha that improving the ground for building, for living, is a part of this malacha. So therefore, in a place where it's an earthen floor, so straightening the ground, that would be building. And as an extension to that, there was a concern that if you are going to be accustomed to sweeping, you might sweep the outdoors, which would be the malacha. So therefore, we have also a restriction in our homes when it comes to sweeping. So what makes it permissible to sweep? What kind of broom could one use? Let's hear. What kind of broom can you use on Shabbos? Any guidelines?
Wouldn't break.
Okay, will not break. So therefore, the straw brooms cannot be used on Shabbos. Does anyone still use straw brooms? Did you ever see them being sold? At one time, that was popular. Straw brooms was the broom that was being sold. So that was not a Shabbos broom. But what could be used? One with soft bristles. Ones with soft bristles, so if they were to be used outdoors, they would not be able to push the ground because it's too soft. So therefore, they made that restriction not to use a type of broom that if used outdoors would be able to sweep the earth, push the earth. So those type of brooms could not be used indoors on Shabbos, even though we have a floor which would be tiled or wooden, but so those are the type of brooms that could be used on Shabbos. Because of that also, since there was a concern about straightening the ground and living quarters, games that are a part of the game is to straighten the ground. So those type of games cannot be played on Shabbos. So you have a game of marbles. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that type of game. Is anyone familiar with marbles? You put a marble down, that would be your goal, and you would try to shoot other marbles or nuts so to try to get your target. So in order to do so, you would need a smooth surface. So playing on the ground with marbles or nuts, that would be forbidden. If it's played on a carpet, that is fine. Played on the table, that is fine, but not on ground that could be straightened. Then you have other games that you need a smooth surface, and that would include golf. You want to get your golf ball in. Same thing is also cricket. So those type of games that you roll the ball on the floor, that would not be played on Shabbos. As far as other games are concerned, which let's say you're playing, I don't know, basketball, baseball, what would be do you need a smooth surface for that? Would you try to smooth out the ground before you're going to play basketball? If it's an earthen floor, or you just play as is? Which way? No thought on that. Okay, if it's normal to straighten the ground when you're going to have a straight surface to play these games, it can have to be played on Shabbos. As far as children are concerned, we don't consider the ball muktzah. We are concerned that it shouldn't go out of bounds. You have those places where the ball might go into the street, where it would be public domain, and then they would forget that it's Shabbos and go to retrieve it, so that they cannot play ball in that area. It's suggested for adults to play ball on Shabbos. That's not in the Shabbos spirit. So therefore, even though it's indoors, playing basketball, these type of games, that is not recommended for adults. Now, so building and adding to a permanent building is a part of this malacha. The Toldos include erecting a permanent tent, attaching doors or windows on their hinges. Since anything that is attached to a permanent building is considered a part of that building, and adding it or removing it would be a part of the prohibition. So let's have some suggestions on adding to a permanent building. What would be some of the things? So let's take a door handle. A door handle is a part of the door, which is a part of the building. If your door handle comes off, since it's not made to come off on a regular basis, it's meant to be permanent there. When it does come off on Shabbos, it is muktzah, one could not replace it. So if the door is locked, the door handle comes off, what could you do? No, you can't put it back in. So what could you do? How do you get the door open? No, I'm speaking, the door's closed now. You want to open it up. You have you pull the handle is now in your hand. You can't put it back in. So how do we open the door? Any thoughts?
Use a shino.
Yeah, but the handle is, no matter how you're going to do it, it's not going to help you. I'm speaking of practical now. Practical. You're at home. You're in Shabbos. The door is locked. You want to get in. What do you do?
Take it down.
Can't take the door down because you can't take it off the hinges. Come on. What would you do? No.
Wait, what was the question?
Question is, you're opening your door handle comes out of the doorknob. The doorknob is now left in your hand, and now you want to open up your door in a permissible way on Shabbos. What could you do? I think a practical thing. It's just that's not a. How would you get to what happens if you don't have a doorknob? How would you get into the room if the door is locked? Any thoughts? Stuck? Okay. You try to get something. Now the idea of how the door opens up, there's like a little square there. When you turn it, it opens up the lock. So anything that will go inside this hole, if you turn it, it'll open it up. Usually you'll find a utensil, the back of a spoon, the back of a fork, usually will be that size, And you could just put it in and turn it. The same thing will also be with your regular knives. It's wide enough to go inside that hole, turn it, and it'll open up.
So then why couldn't you just? put
Anything.
it in-
The door handle can't be put in because that's normally attached to the door on a permanent basis. You can't do something that is normally attached on a permanent basis to use that to open it. So what you could do, even if you want to use a screwdriver, you are allowed to use it. Even though a screwdriver is normally muktzah, you cannot use a screwdriver on Shabbos because it's meant for building. However, if you want to use it for a permissible thing, you would be permitted to. So since the screwdriver is going to be used now as a door handle, so you're allowed to use the screwdriver as a door handle, since it's also not going to be left there as a permanently, because your door handle would be left there permanently, the screwdriver would not be left there permanently, neither would the back of your utensil, whether it's a spoon or a fork or a knife. All of these could be used to open the door. Now, if it is an emergency, let's say there is a child on the other side of the door, the child locked themselves in, where it has an actual lock where you can't do anything unless you remove the hinges or you break the door down. Are you allowed to? The answer is yes, because we're concerned about the child becoming traumatized. This is something that the Rabbanan said that since it is a question of the child's well-being, so you are permitted to do whatever it takes to remove the door, whether it's taking out the hinges or actually breaking the lock. Now, page 294, making a hole to allow water to drain out, or to make a hole to drive in a screw, a nail. These are all to widen existing hole. This is all forbidden because it is a part of building. Doing anything to a permanent structure, adding to a permanent structure, and taking away from a permanent structure is a part of the malacha of building or demolishing. Now, what about adding a hook? Now you have these hooks that you could attach to your wall, either by putting in a nail or a screw. Then what are other ways of attaching a hook to a wall? You have those that have a backing to it. You pull it off and there's glue. And then you push it to the wall. That becomes now attached to the wall. It's meant to be there on a regular basis. So you are adding to a structure, cannot be done on Shabbos, that's building. The same as also you have the type of hooks that have it has a rubber. You push it to the wall, and then you pull you push a knob that makes air pressure that now becomes attached to the wall. Since this is a part of the wall itself, it cannot be done on Shabbos. That's a part of building. It's meant, the hook that you put on is meant to be lasting there. The same would also be anything that is being placed back to something that is attached to the wall on a permanent basis. That would be a part of building. And then what happens if you have a shelf that's attached to the wall, the shelf comes, it falls off. So putting it back could not be done on Shabbos. Placing the door of a house, a window, cannot be done. If it's meant to be placed and taken off on a regular basis, then it would be permissible. That's its use. So if we have a bar that you keep towels on the bar, some of the way it's used is the bar has the holders. What you do is it's not meant to be removed. All you do is just remove the towel that you're placing on. Others are such that you lift up the bar and then you take the bar off, put the towel on, and then replace the bar. You have some towels that are like a roll of towel. You have that sometimes in public places. You ever see that? That the towel itself is like sewn. It just there's no opening to it. It's round. What you do is it's meant to be used with the bar. You remove the bar, put the towel through, place it back on. Are you familiar with that? Public places sometimes have that. I think more and more people use now paper towels rather than the actual cloth towels. But using so therefore, depending on how the bar is usually used, if the bar is meant to be there permanently and you just change the towels, then if the bar comes out, you cannot replace it on Shabbos. If it's meant to be opened up and taken out on a regular basis, then that's its use. Same thing would be what happens with a shower curtain. The shower curtain is meant to be there or it's meant to be taken off on a regular basis. Which one is it? Shower curtain is meant to be there on a permanent basis. If it does, the bar does come out on Shabbos, you cannot replace the bar on Shabbos because it's meant to be there permanently. And anything that's attached to the structure is considered building. So building is either assembling something from the beginning or attaching something that becomes now a part of the structure, whether it is adding shelves, adding the bar that is meant to be there on a regular basis. Yes, your question.
I don't think it's like, I think you kind of answered it, but I'll say it anyway. So I know you're allowed to tie a knot on Shabbos as long as it's not permanent. So I don't know if this correlates, but when you were mentioning hooks, they do have hooks now that like kind of just peel off the wall, like command hooks. So in a sense, like it's not permanent.
So why are they being peeled off?
So you're removed from the structure.
And
They're peeled off so you can like, so you're able to take it off the wall without damaging the wall. But
yes,
in a sense, it makes it not permanent.
No, it is permanent as long as you need it. No, but the example that I gave you of removal of the bar in order to replace the towel, that's done on a regular basis. The hooks are there as long as you need them. So if you need them for a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, you're not going to take it off. You're not taking it off every day.
Right.
So that would be considered a permanent part of the structure. The same thing when we spoke about the air pressure hook. That's easy to take off. You just move the lever, the hook comes off. But as long as you're using the hook, you do want it to be there, and that's considered permanent, yes.
Yeah.
So putting things on hooks. So let's take a curtain. Can you hang a curtain on an opening of a curtain on a window, curtain in front of a doorway? Can you put a curtain up on Shabbos? Matters how it's used. Now, if there are hooks, and you just put the curtain on the hooks, and it's speaking about a doorway that does not have a door, just a doorway. And you just want to have sort of privacy, just want it to be there. So you are permitted to put it up on Shabbos since it is not considered like a part of the structure itself because it is loose. In other words, you want to go through, you could push your way through. It's not like this, it's not like a structure. Since it is attached to hooks and it could be removed, it's not put down tight. In other words, if there would be a frame that's actually making it as a door, then you're adding a door to your doorway. But in this case, it's a curtain that you could just, it's not attached, really it's only attached on one side. The rest of it you can go in and out, so then that would be permissible. Now, making a utensil is also a part of building. So let's this on page 295. An example would be what happens if you have a broom that the handle screws into the broom itself. So attaching the two on Shabbos could not be done because you are making that vessel.
Wait, what was the scenario with a broom?
if you have a broom and you have the handle to the broom, you cannot attach the handle to the broom on Shabbos. If it's there already, it's fine. If it does come apart, then you cannot reattach it on Shabbos. Uniting two sections of a piece of furniture as a bed, a table, attaching the wood sections themselves by means of a nail, that cannot be done. However, if the bed or table are folding beds, folding tables, folding chairs, so is that a problem? Opening and closing them? So
It's its mode of use.
that's its mode of use, and therefore that is permissible. So you could open up a folding bed, folding chairs. The same would also be with what else is folded? That is permissible, yes. So again, the bar itself would be considered a permanent. In your closet, the bar in the closet is considered permanent because one does not remove the bar and put it back and forth on a regular basis. But hanging things on them is fine. What? Again, what happened? Yeah, so it's fine. The hanger is not a part of the structure. It's meant to be put on and taken off. So the hanger, even though it's going on the pole, but it's not meant to be there on a permanent basis. So you take the hanger on and off. That's fine. Now, on 296. So in this malacha of building would also go with utensils. It's not only to a permanent structure, but also utensils that are meant to be there permanently are also a part of this malacha. So here we have, for those who wear eyeglasses, I hear you, we're two in the class, okay. For those who wear eyeglasses, what happens if the side of the temple comes off? And if it's meant to be attached with a screw, let's see if mine, does it have a screw here? Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. Now what happens if the screw comes out on Shabbos? Can you reattach the temple of your eyeglass to the glasses? And the answer is no. What happens if the lens comes out? Also, putting back the lens would be, if it usually does not come out. So if it became now your glasses, your glass would not easily be taken in and out of your frame. It's meant to be there tight. Once it comes out, you really have to put in a lot of effort putting it out. In my eyeglasses, what's the bottom of my frame? Anyone? What keeps it in? I don't have that plastic on the bottom. So why doesn't my eyeglasses fall out? There's something that you don't see. That is, there's a string that is holding it in. It's a plastic piece. There's a string like. Now this string could really be pulled and stretched. So the way it's now, it's tight. What happens if it becomes stretched? So then my eyeglasses would fall out on a regular basis, and I would be putting it back on a regular basis. So it's not something I'm constructing anew, because if it's stretched, then it's going to keep coming out. So I'm expecting it to come out, I'm expecting it to put it back in. So if that comes out on Shabbos, I could add it back in because it's something that's been falling in and out on a regular basis. However, I do keep it tight for my eyeglass. If it would come out, I would not be able to put it back on Shabbos because it doesn't come out on a regular basis. So therefore, refixing the eyeglasses cannot be done with the screw. So what could you do? if the temple of your eyeglasses falls off, what could you do on Shabbos that would be permissible? How could you get the temple? So what it has is it has like a groove on the eyeglasses. If it's not the kind of eyeglass, if it has a groove on the eyeglass, it has a groove on the temple, and what happens is you attach it with a screw. So now the screw is out, you can't put it back. Is there a permissible way to attach it? What could you do, huh? So it's not going to be permanent. What could you do? I mean, tell me, what could you do on Shabbos that would be permissible? A safety pin. Put a safety pin. Put a safety pin through. Put a safety pin through the two of them. It's not going to look nice. You're not going to keep it that way. It's done on a temporary basis, so that would be permissible. So then after Shabbos, you fix it. Okay. Attaching the cover of a utensil, of a jar, is that of a thermos? Is that a problem? Is that screwing things together? Is that making a vessel? Because it's part of that's the way it's used. When you have a jar, it's meant to be opened up, even though it has a screw top, the same thing as a thermos, it's meant to be opened used on a regular basis, and that's not considered screwed together, but rather being closed, so that's no issue. Now, we do have on 297, a baby carriage, a stroller, that the spring or the wheel fell off. These wheels are meant to be there permanently. The springs are meant to be there permanently. Reassembling that on Shabbos is considered making a vessel. So that cannot be done on Shabbos. And the same would be if the stroller is attached to the carriage by screws. It's meant to hold it, to be there on a permanent basis, not to be opened up, and therefore it's considered building. If it has hinges or hooks, where it's meant to be hooked in, and that is meant to be taken in and out on a regular basis, that would be permissible. So depending on the type of stroller that it is, how it's attached to the wheels. If it's meant to be there on a permanent basis, if it does come apart on Shabbos, you could not reattach it. If it's meant to begin with to be taken in and out on a regular basis, then you just not considered building, but just putting it together as its normal use. Just same as we said about the bar, if it's meant to be taken in and out of that's attached to the wall, that's its use. So the same thing would also be to the carriage or stroller. We have a book stand. There are different ways of how book stands work. Some of them, it just has a piece of wood that you adjust it according to the height that you want it. Then you have those that are adjusted by screws. Again, here the height of the book stand is meant to be changed according to how the person is using it. So that would be permissible to lower it and raise it on Shabbos. Braiding hair, arranging hair. So that is rabbinically forbidden, similar to building. Arranging hair, that is to make it neat, but it is tidy to begin with, that is fine. Same thing is now using hairspray to harden the hair to keep it in style. If the purpose of the hairspray is to harden it, then one could not use it on Shabbos. Wrapping the cover of a book or a gift, so book covers. So it matters what its purpose is. If it's meant to fit onto the book, I don't know if people still do it. At one time, people used to cover their books with book covers. Is it still popular? Used to actually sell book covers. Used to have all these, the covers that would have the college emblems on them. No one, that's out of style. People were concerned about having the covers of their books to be very, very neat, and therefore it used to be like a whole contraption. It was folded in a special way until they actually made like little pockets. So it was folded to make pockets, and then the book cover would fit into the pocket. This is not the same way. This is just covering it over. But the ones that were made with pockets, that was making a whole construction with your paper, making it into a utensil. That could not be done on Shabbos. Wrapping something, as it says over here, as a gift, that's not meant permanent, it's meant to be discarded. So that does not go into this category. Page 300, folding paper to make toys could not be done. You have those who make ships, make planes. So doing that on Shabbos is not a toy for a child to be made on Shabbos. They could play with it, but to make the ships, the hats, the planes, that can not be done on Shabbos. No. Making, yes.
Do Legos fall into that category?
Legos usually are meant to be taken to put together and taken apart. They're not meant to be there on a permanent basis. So that could be, children could be playing with Legos, unless they're making it as something that they make as a permanent display. They put in a lot of effort into it. They finally made this truck that's so intricate, and they don't want to take it apart and make it again because this is their toy that they sort of want to keep on a permanent basis. That cannot be done on Shabbos unless it is a type of toys that are very loose. You have the logs. Logs are very loose. You have the Legos that come by different brand names. They're not as good as Legos. They usually do not hold together as well. So those could be used as well, even if you're going to leave it permanently, because they are not assembled really as an assembly, because it is loose. Now, into this category, but also you have making a permanent tent on Shabbos would be a building. Making a temporary tent on Shabbos is rabbinically forbidden. However, making an extension to a temporary tent, that is permissible. So let's look at let's take an example. Is anyone familiar with the covering of a sukkah, so it should not rain? Putting a tarp over the sukkah. Is anyone familiar with that? Having a tarp over the sukkah? So that would be a temporary tent because it's meant to be used underneath. So putting the tarp over on Shabbos would be forbidden, unless it was there before Shabbos, opened at least a handbreadth, which would be between 3 and 4 inches. The 3 and 4 inches of this tarp, which we're not speaking about a tarp, I guess that could be extended, or sometimes they roll it, then you open it and you pull it, then you roll it back up. So you are permitted to extend it on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Shabbos and Yom Tov, as far as building is concerned, are the same. So if 4 inches of it was opened already, you can extend it all the way. And then when you're rolling it back, you have to leave 4 inches still open, so you haven't destroyed, you haven't removed the complete tent. The complete tent is still there, and what you're doing is an extension of the tent. So as long as there is 3-4 inches, that's considered already a tent. Whatever you're doing is an extension to this tent. So that would be permissible. So what about an awning? An awning is a temporary tent. It's opened up, it's closed. So the awning itself also has to be opened up at least 4 inches. That would be flat surface. To be underneath 4 inches, that would be considered that it's open. And then you could extend the rest of it, roll it back up. Again, you could not roll it completely. That at least 4 inches has to be left open. The making of walls would also be the same. If it's already there, unfolding it would be permissible. So you have these folding accordion separators. So they could be opened up. Now, going back to the sukkah, if it has two covers that are attached by hinges, so it's really like a door or a skylight where you're opening them up, in that case, that's the way it's being used. It's being used like doorways, a door to the top of the sukkah. So that could be open and closed on Shabbos, the same as you could open and close a door. It's not considered that you are sealing an extension to you're not sealing your wall, you're actually making use of a door that's meant to be open and closed. So that would be permissible. Now, putting an extension to a table. So that would be permissible. That's the way it's used. The table is meant to be extended. You put in that additional part, even though it has pegs where it goes into the adjoining sides, that could be done. And it could be also removed on Shabbos because that's the way its use is meant to be done. Now over here we have setting up a table or bed on its legs. Now, the table itself is made like a shelf, and you put the legs in when you want to use it. So here you have to do it with change. You have to have two people setting it up. One person will hold, two people will hold the tabletop, and someone else will put the legs in. Since it's made to be, it's a temporary table that's meant, the legs are meant to be taken in and out, but you have to do it in an unusual way, so one will not mistaken and put together a table that's meant to be permanently left that way. So since you're doing it in an unusual way, so that would be permissible. The same would also be a net or canopy over a baby carriage. The net or canopy has to be opened before Shabbos, the 4 inches. When it's being closed, also 4 inches have to be left the hand breadth. Okay, 3.5 inches. So considered a temporary addition to a pre-existing tent. Let's see, there's anything. I think that's pretty much. Now, in demolishing, whatever is forbidden to build is forbidden to take apart. If it's meant to something is going to be improved, that's a Torah prohibition. If it's just something that is demolishing with no intention to rebuild something in its place, that would be rabbinic, but it's still forbidden. Removal of a window from its hinges or tracks, since it is attached to the house and it's not meant to be taken on or off on a regular basis, then it cannot be done. We had in the previous class about opening up plastic bags or packages, it's on page 309, to remove the food that is inside. So since it is rabbinic, we're demolishing something without intention of rebuilding it, so it would be rabbinic, and the Rabbanan made a leniency when it came to food. Our first option is to open up all packages before Shabbos. So if there are the nash packages, the food packages, cans, boxes, tissues, all of this should be opened before Shabbos. If one did not do so and you are stuck, so what you could do is you could demolish the packaging so it will not be used as a vessel. In other words, you have your nash, you have your potato chips, You can't unglue the top because that's ungluing. That has to do with another malacha, sewing and taking it apart. So since it's glued together, you can't unglue the top. What you could do is to make a hole, a tear in the packaging, being careful not to erase, to separate any of the letters. And then you would not use it as a storage bag, but rather empty it into another, into a dish that's a bowl, and over to another bag that's open already, and not to use that as not to make it into a bag. As far as boxes are concerned, again, storing it, not to make it as a vessel, and being careful not to rip any of the words. To remove the tab here cannot be done because it's done in a specific size. To unglue the sides, that's ungluing, can't be done, so you have to make a rip here, then remove the tissue. Okay, our next chapters that we're going to deal with is fire, kindling a fire, extinguishing a fire, and then striking a hammer, and then carrying. So we have another two classes, two topics to cover that will complete our 39 categories.